Hello and welcome to Relatable Judaism Podcast at Aishlit, Los Angeles. This is Rabbi Jack Malul. Wherever you are, wherever you're going, doing, driving, there is nothing better than listening to something meaningful that Judaism has to offer that is relatable and will leave us lit on life. The topic for today will be talking about marriage, soulmates and money whilst dating.
In your apartment.
Okay, are we ready? Okay, so last week we spoke about the fear of marriage and we finished off there. Okay, and we said, what is the reason that people are afraid of marriage? And we spoke about one of them and I want to go through some more. But before we do that, I want to ask you, what is the feeling that you would get if you're on a date and somebody starts talking about a marriage, right? What kind of feeling do they give off when people talk about marriage? What?
Desperation, right?
Right, it sounds like desperation, right? Doesn't it sound in our culture today that the minute that marriage is even discussed or thought of, it sounds like, oh my gosh, this guy wants something, or this girl wants something more than what's going on right now. Are you very hot, Sheila?
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to open a window there?
No, because I'm sitting under the lights.
Oh.
Come here.
Oh, you can come here.
Do you want to switch seats? Just by the window?
And you can open the window regardless.
Should I open the window?
Yeah.
I know I'm hot, but you know. Okay. Hi, Marguerite. How you doing? Good.
There's a pin underneath it.
טל, תבוא. מה אתה מתבייש? Hey, Erez. Okay, so we said, why is marriage on a decline? The first thing we said is because everyone is in transitioning mode much more. Who has time to date seriously as much as they used to? Unless you're feeling like, okay, this is a moment where I just need to get on with life and I need that change. But many people have told me it's so much harder for me to consider a real date right now. I'm busy, I have work, I'm in a big city, there's not much time, there's so much driving to do. There's so much on my mind. Who can think of a serious date? So that's something which many people have told me and I believe it. It's true. Everyone's in much more of a transition mode. As soon as we finish school, you have to intern first for free. You become a slave for someone legally for a few months and then you may think that you work and then he tells you, or she tells you, I'm sorry, but I don't need you anymore. And you're like, oh, that was a waste of a few months in a big city, spending my parents' money, not paying off my loans, right? Does this happen to anyone? Right, okay. So, you know that when I was in Oregon, I used to sit and talk to people, they would tell me that it was unheard of working with an internship for free. That was something that never happened. But times have changed. So, as we are getting more advanced in the world, slavery is coming more advanced as well, but just in different terms. Internships for free. Okay, so, but yeah, that's how it is. So there's nothing we can do. So we are all in transitioning mode, and that's why it's much harder for people to actually consider marriage from a younger age. The next thing is that things are more temporary. Okay, what does that mean? Tell you what it means. Who has a phone today that lasts for more than 2 or 3 years, or at least uses it for more than 2 or 3 years before they feel that we've got 2, 3. How old is your phone? What phone do you have?
What I had before this was I had it for like 5 years.
No, now. Well, how long is this one? Oh, you just got this.
Yeah.
5 years. Wow, that's impressive. What about you, Faraz? How old's your phone?
2 years.
2 years. See, our phones could theoretically last much longer, but everything we have today is very short-term lived. Everything. We're living in a disposable generation, especially if you're in my house. Everything's disposable because we have so many people. We're not going to wash all the vessels or whatever, right, on Shabbat, so we use lots more disposable. We're in a disposable generation. Make sense?
Yes.
Right? So that actually has an effect on us. Many have said and much research has been done on this, that because we live in a world where we try, as soon as something doesn't work, what do? We throw away, we get a new one, right? Washing machine doesn't work. Who wants to fix it? You get a guy to fix it, it's going to cost you that much money, just get a new one. And that's what we're doing with everything. And that's how it affects us subconsciously as well when it comes to relationships too. Oh, this girl has been nice to me for a year or 2 years, but my iPhone wife has outdated, and I decide that I should maybe think of something else as opposed to trying to fix it. Because we're in a disposable nation, a disposable time, we treat life like that as well. The minute something doesn't work, what do you mean work and try and fix it? Let's just look for someone else. And that's a big, big problem. Okay, so disposable lifestyle ends up in living a disposable lifestyle, meaning you treat things in your life like work, or even a marriage or a relationship in a disposable fashion. Does that make sense? Much research has been done outside of the Jewish world and has said that this is one of the factors that affects so much change in relationships and dating, and how people can't commit for things as long because of this. Yeah?
I think it's like even a little bit deeper than that is like your example of, in the old days, you would get a guy to come fix your washing machine, right, instead of buying a new one. Mm-hmm. I think it has more to do with things that you would fix yourself, right? Like, because you have to put in work to fix them, right? So like, for me, if a button falls off my shirt, I'll like keep it for 6 months thinking I'm gonna try to put the button back on. There's no way in hell I'm ever doing that, right? So I'll just buy a new shirt. You know, so like, it's the effort that goes into maintaining something you own, right?
So like, true.
When there's trouble, to get it back on the right track.
Like, people wouldn't just get someone to come and fix it. They'll try and fix it themselves first. They'll pull it apart. And I've seen this in Israel, like in Israel where people don't have as much, the country itself, it now has come much wealthier. But in the past 10 years, 15 years, it's definitely a poorer country than here in America. It's 60 years old. So when you're in Israel, 70 years old. When you're in Israel, you really feel that vibe where things break down, people have junky cars and they break down and everyone's trying to fix them. I have a brother-in-law who's like that. He would never go and get someone to fix something. He'll tear it apart. He'll watch 10 YouTube videos, but he'll have to fix it first. He'll order the piece. There's always these people like that will never throw something away. They try and do everything they can to fix something before they actually throw it and buy a new one. So I know that we're busy and we don't have the time, and I don't think that we should be old-fashioned right now, but just be aware that the disposable times that we live in has an effect on us. Yeah?
I was going to say, like, the things also that we buy, I don't think are, like, made to last. Like, we have fast fashion now.
Yeah.
Like, the clothing that we buy, it's not made to last.
It's not as quality as it used to be,
Yeah, it's
right?
not as higher quality. So, in terms of, like, your phone, you can only, like, there's only so many things you can fix it before they tell you, oh, there's nothing we can do, you have to buy a whole phone.
So true.
Like, you can't replace these parts.
Yeah, they just don't make, and they
make it easier for you to have to buy.
They want you to keep buying so they make more money, which is crazy. But I remember going to my parents' house last year for a day in England, and my mom took out this sewing machine, which I remember as a kid. Literally, as a little kid, I remember that sewing machine. And I'm like, Mom, you still got that thing? But it works. She's like, it works. What's wrong? So, I don't know. You just don't see that as much, like, we're constantly buying new things. And anyway, any other thoughts? Okay. So I think that's one of the reasons why marriage itself doesn't last, or at least even a relationship or a dating relationship where you're trying to see if this person's for you. Before you know it, boom. Maybe something else. I've had enough. I've had a year. There's not that effort to make it maintain. Okay, so there's another thing, which is we have too much choice. And that's a problem. There's a famous idea that the more choice you have, the less you desire to choose anything. So when you have so much choice in front of you, you're just like, forget it. And you walk off, right? Does that make sense? Does that ever happen to you? So when you walk into the store, and they've actually done this with an experiment with jam. Were you going to say something? Go for it.
You want me to?
Yes.
I watched this video on YouTube about how successful, like the reasons why Trader Joe's is so successful. And it's because they've limited the number of options and they rarely look to see what they're putting on the shelf. So like in a regular grocery store, I don't know, there was like a ridiculous number of pasta sauces that I didn't even realize there were that many. And at Trader Joe's, it's so much easier to just choose from like
It's
that.
very limited. And
Also why like Steve Jobs, like there's like decision fatigue. That's why I wear the same thing.
What? I
Like
don't get it.
decision fatigue.
Right,
We
so,
make so many decisions in our like day to day that's why like he had like a uniform. Like he wore the same thing every day. It's like one less decision.
That's why Netflix is such a nightmare.
because there's so much to look at.
Because like in like every time like decision fatigue. Every time you go to consider another choice, it takes energy for your mind to jump from choice.
Oh my
like, from
goodness.
movie to movie. So by the time you're so spread thin, you're like I don't know. Just on the same thing I watched last night.
And it happens. You can watch the same thing. Oh my goodness.
At the grocery store, they put all those candies by the cashier because you're so exhausted by the end that it's like a fast.
Just something quick.
It's impulse buy.
Wow.
Because you're worn out from all the like interest.
It's the psychology behind.
Wow.
But then isn't that another decision? Like what candy?
No, but the point is, it's like you had the willpower to resist these stupid like chocolates that you shouldn't have. But after like choosing all the things in the store, your willpower is just gone. You're like, oh, screw it.
Just to feel good, like you didn't choose the right thing.
We have a finite amount of mental energy.
What?
We have a finite amount of mental energy.
Yeah.
It's called ego depletion.
Ego depletion.
You need depleting your store of mental reserve.
Exactly, and there's a certain point where it shuts down.
And then impulse takes over.
Right, which is the chocolate at the end.
Or the watching The Office before it takes over.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay, so. Right, so too much choice removes the desire to choose. They actually did this with a jam. It's called the jam experiment, and I think you can actually watch it on YouTube. It's called the jam experiment, where they offer 24 different jams they have a stand at a store, and there's 24 different jams to choose, and they give you a coupon where you can choose if you like any of them. You can get one for $1. The first one you get for $1, and the second one, you'll get for a bit lower than the regular price. So they gave them a coupon, and when they did the experiment, they had one place which had 24 different jams, another place which had just 6 jams. And although more people went to the place where it had many more jams, because they were like, whoa, look what's going on here. Everyone went to the ones which had 24 jams, but not that many bought. In fact, 30% more people bought from the place where you had 4 jams to choose from than. So that's a thought, with all the online dating options, with all the ability for us to fly, everything, our interconnectedness that we have gives us so much choice in the air. It makes it so much harder for us to really make that final decision. And even when we do, we're thinking to ourselves, oh, but maybe there's something else out there. There's more out there. It's easy to find more.
We also consider it our fault, because if there's a million options and we choose a bad one, we're like, well, that's on me.
Whoa, we blame. I like that. We start blaming ourselves.
No, they say a similar study in an ice cream store with like 24 flavors and like only like 5. And everyone's like, well, if there's only 5 flavors and I don't like any of them, that's not on me, it's on the ice cream store.
Right.
If there's 24 flavors and I pick one I don't like, that has to be my fault.
And we get upset with ourselves. We blame ourselves.
In the first place.
Yeah, it's because the stakes are too high. Because if the best movie in the world is looking us in the face and we don't choose it, that's on us.
There's more. Wow, he's on fire, Brian. Okay, I like this guy. Okay, we got Marguerite, we got Brian. I like it. Okay, let's carry on. So that's another thing. And the fourth thing is what we've been speaking so much about, which is that people date to date much more than it used to be. We've been speaking a lot about that, which means that I'm just dating because I know in our society that I could date for as long as I want. people date for 10 years, right? The thought that I want to take this relationship to another level where there's absolute commitment isn't a strong thought, and it's a mistake, because the goal of dating isn't to date. That's just one stage. The goal is to go beyond that, to take your dating to a higher level. So that was another reason why I think that people or marriage is on a decline. So how can we overcome it? How can we overcome our fear? That's our sprinkler for no reason. So how do we overcome that? Yes.
You have to say to yourself, when you find something good, just stick with it, hold on to it, because, you know. But there's always going to be better, you know?
But I think the point is it's never actually better, we just assume it's better. There's no always going to be better, we're always going to assume
there's just going to be assuming, but we're never going to find that better person because everyone has faults, right? We spoke about those.
Also, if you always are, sorry.
Go.
If you're always thinking about what's better, you're never going to take seriously what's in front of you.
Exactly. So that was another thing we spoke about last week, which is exclusive dating. If you are dating someone, try and stop all those back burners. Or stop from having, do you know what back burner is? Where you're still in a past relationship with someone, or you've still been dreaming about someone, and you've not come to that conclusion that or clarity whether you really want her or not. So every time you speak to someone else, you always think of that back burner. It's confusing. Or double dating. That is very problematic, because whilst you're dating one person, you're thinking of the other person, you're confused. What do I really want? So all those things are not advisable. The best thing to do is avoid, or do everything you can to avoid unfocused relationships. Yes?
I think when you look at the other person that could be better, it's because you think about yourself, and you cannot change yourself, and it's harder to change yourself, so you always try to change the other person. So it comes from the point that you don't accept yourself. But if you learn to accept yourself and to be your best version of yourself, so you can also make the other person to be the best version of yourself and accept the other person.
That's definitely true. There's a lot of self-reflection and self-thinking. All of dating is very much into that, especially in this area. That's exactly true. But let's make it more, in a way, more practical than just saying just. Let's give some ideas. So there is a Jewish idea, which is that you have to jump in at a certain point in anything. Now this is crazy, but it's true. You don't question yourself, right? How tomorrow you'll survive. Does anyone here question, will I live tomorrow? It's obvious to us, right? Do you want to say something, Dove?
I just think I do.
You do? Okay. So that's, that we should have a discussion. But does everyone, there's certain things that we take, even if you do have that, there's certain things that we take in the back of our mind that's obvious that will work out. We don't think 10 times, will it work out? Will it not work out? How will it be? Because it's so obvious that that's the way that the world works, right? But we do worry about things which we question about. So here's the point. When it comes to making money or working or marriage itself, there's something that you need to do. And that's called jumping in the river. How do we know this? We learn this from the splitting of the sea. Remember the story of splitting of the sea? How did the sea split? What? It split in half, that's true. What else happened? Someone had to walk in first. You remember that? Yeah, what were you going to say?
I recently heard this, I found this on YouTube, but I recently heard it. They didn't walk straight through, they actually did a little roundabout.
Yeah, they did a roundabout, that's true. And 12 different ones.
Why are we taught that they walked through?
What?
I don't know, I feel like growing up, I've always been taught they just walked straight through.
It's true. A lot of our Judaism is when we were 3 years old, or 4 years old, or 5 years old. It's a big shame, because Judaism's much more. We need to upgrade a bit. Right? So anyway, what was I saying? Oh, splitting of the sea. The Talmud says very specifically that marriage and making money is like splitting of the sea. It's as miraculous and difficult as splitting of the sea. You think you just became a millionaire? Well, some people tried so much more than you, and didn't make it. You think you just found that girl luckily, perfectly from you, right? She came from the other side of the world, you went from the other side, happened to be there at the same time, wherever it was that you were, or you happened to be recommended, and you think you just found each other and you're so perfectly matched for each other that that's how it works. According to Judaism, it's not like that. It's like the splitting of the sea. Nothing when it comes to making money, or especially when it comes to making money or dating, is taken for granted. It's an absolute miracle. That's how we understand it. It's crazy. Two people that come from different parts of the world and they get together and they're so fit for each other out of all the other 7 billion people on this planet. That is a crazy thought. And it happens time after time. And you look at them and you say, wow, they're so fit for each other. This happens. It's crazy. So what's the concept? That it's a miracle. And what did we say? In order for that miracle to happen, at some point you have to jump in the sea for it to split. And that's really, really important, because at some point, if you want that job, let's say here, anyone move into LA to get a job? How many people moved into LA to get a job? Right? So that's quite a few people. Dan, why is your hand not up? So that's quite a few people that moved into, or you had a job before. Okay, fine. So the people, to move into a place, to get a job, takes crazy, crazy faith. Blind faith. You know for sure how they're going to treat you. You know for sure how the city is going to work. You know for sure whether your roommate or the place you're going to stay is going to be safe and enjoyable. There's so many questions at stake. There's no question about it that when you made that decision, without you even realizing about it, it was a blind decision. 100%. Guess what? When it comes to dating and eventually finding that person, there's going to be a point where it's a blind decision. It's true. I realize she's cute or he's cute, right? I realize that they have great qualities, but there's a certain point where you're going to say, okay, fine, I want this. I'm really going to do this. And that move is going to be a dive into the river for the sea to split. It's never going to happen that you just walk in and boom, you feel great, this is the one, this is happening, marriage. It doesn't work like that. There's going to be a point where if you want to really take your date to a real level of marriage, you have to walk into the ocean. The same with work. Yes, it's true, we should not be blind, we should think. But once we make that decision that this is for me, this is the right thing for me to do, walk straight in. Okay, so that's a very important concept. Jumping in. We date thinking, oh, maybe there's someone else out there, something else. Just jump, dive in. It sounds crazy, but that's how it needs to work. Dive into the situation, find out if this person's for you. If it's not, then move on. But remember that concept of jumping in, because at some point you will have to jump in. Yes?
No,
what were you going to say, Jonathan?
No, you defined it.
Okay.
I'm just saying, like, define what you mean by jumping in.
Yeah, which means just move forward.
Just go for it.
Just go for it.
Get into the relationship.
Stop thinking too much. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay. The other two things are laugh a bit, which is really important too. You've got to have fun. Some people take dating too, we should take it seriously, but you can't take it to a point where you're going crazy about each moment and each situation. You've got to have fun in the dating as well. Not thinking of when is it going to be, how is it going to be, what. You've got to have fun, right? You've got to have fun in the moment. And that's a really, really important aspect of dating itself. These are real crucial rules because we learn these from the actual splitting of the sea. You know that when the sea split, they also said a joke. Jews started saying jokes. They were saying, are there no burial places in Egypt that we have to be here? They were actually making a joke. Rav Shimshon Raphael Hirsch said that they were actually trying to be humorous out of their situation. They were stuck. They had the Egyptians behind them, the ocean in front of them, they were stuck. So they said, are there no burial places in Egypt for us to be buried in, that we have to be here, getting buried in the ocean? And there was meant to be some kind of sarcastic or some kind of joke. This is what one of the great commentators say. And that's actually one of the aspects of dating itself. Not on the expense of the person you're dating. That would be bad to joke about, oh my gosh, did you see how that person looks and whatever, right? That wouldn't be a good idea. But I'm talking about joking and having enjoyment in the situation that you're in. Okay, there is, the healthy mindset. Oh, this is one of the tips, and you can tell me what you think. Okay? Instead of talking too much about marriage itself, because at some point you want the relationship to be serious, the best idea would be to talk more about your values. So it's not so much as, oh my gosh, when are we going to get married? Or what do you think of marriage? Right? You don't need to talk about it as directly on your date, because that can sound like a moment of desperacy, right? You're so desperate that you can't hold it, and you're pushing for this idea of marriage. It's not something which you would be comfortable doing. One of the best suggestions is to more speak about what your value is. Does that make sense to anyone? Right? Wouldn't it be better to speak about what's valuable to you? Right. Give me an example where you show your values which prove that you want a relationship to be serious. Do you get my question?
Yeah.
Give me an example where you speak about certain values to the other person, to the partner, which show that you want this relationship to be serious. How can we do that?
Talk about how you want to raise your kids.
Do you think that's heavy?
Yeah.
Talk about your general
Jonathan, what's wrong?
Yeah.
So how do you want to raise your kids?
I'm just saying, like, sometimes it's like, oh, like.
Shh, Erez wants to say something. Go for it.
Maybe just more generally talk about your long-term goals.
Long-term goals. Talk more long-term. I like that. It's powerful. Right? More long-term. Let's write that. Right? Long-term. Long-term discussions. Okay? How to make a relationship or a discussion long-lasting. Or at least when you're dating someone, to see if this person is serious to make this a real relationship. This is very important. You don't want to be used. You don't want to be in a relationship with someone who looks at you as, oh, this is going to be a great trial and error situation, right? And, I actually had someone that I met this week, and he's been dating for quite a while. And I asked him, he's like, it's not for me. So I said, when did you know it's not for you? He didn't actually break up, but he's like, I knew already from very into the beginning. And he's been dating a long time. I knew right almost from the beginning, this is not for me. So I said, why are you doing this? So he says, because I've not been dating for a while, I wanted to get the experience. What do you think? Nice or not nice? Horrible, right? That's unfair to the other side. But you know what? People do this all the time. Yeah.
I have pushback for that. What if you think that, if the person is nice and you know from the beginning, or you think you know from the beginning, but a lot of the times feelings develop, and you can build something if you just give it time.
So you mean
That's different.
It's different. What do you mean you know he's nice?
He knew right from the beginning, and it's like,
No, he knew from the beginning that he didn't want, that this person's never someone that he's going to take.
Based off of values or based off
just of the
I
personality.
think it was values thing.
What you're saying is
wasn't it the values?
you're talking
Yeah.
about a scenario where they
Wasn't
don't
like the
know.
way she looked.
That was someone else.
Knew,
Oh,
definitely would never. So there must be something, if you knew it for a fact, it would never change.
like deal breakers.
Yeah, deal breakers.
Like he was dating today.
He was.
He knew from his perspective. He was dating.
He knew from his perspective that this person is no way. I can never commit to this person, but he continued doing it. Do you think that's fair?
No.
Do you think it's fair? Do you think it's worse? What's worse, that or stealing some time from your work, or stealing money? If you see, let's say, a co-worker in work, and they're working, and he's in the office and whatever, and he's taking stuff that he shouldn't be, right, from the office. Let's say it's not that valuable. What?
Paper clips?
No, not paper clips. Right? Some things that are more valuable. He's like, yeah, I need it for now.
Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
Does the other person feel the same way? Like they're just with them for now?
No, the other person
thought it was going to be longer.
the other person thinks that all along that this was serious and it's going to go long term, and they're really getting into it.
Okay.
It's very unfair. I think that's real. That's called gnevat da'at. It's called stealing someone's mind. There's stealing money, and there's also stealing people's minds. That's a theft of someone's mind. You make them think a whole different thing, and it's real. This is an emotional drive. This is real. It's like, right?
It's pretty understanding as leading someone on.
What?
Leading someone on.
Yeah, 100%.
That's what it is.
It's
Say that in Hebrew again, stealing someone's mind.
Gnevat da'at.
Gnevat da'at.
Yeah.
Gnevat da'at.
Gnevat da'at. Okay, which is stealing someone's mind. Dan just asked him, why are you going to ever use that? Okay.
We can do that in business all the time. Like in real estate, you can steal someone's mind.
Yeah.
Tell them the house, there's no problem in the house.
And it's a destroyable dead house, and you pretend it's nice. We spoke about it in the Ten Commandments. Yes, Tili.
I understand even in Hebrew what is Gnevat da'at.
Gnevat da'at. Yesh chokhmah, bina, v'da'at. You know what? After Tili, because everyone doesn't speak Hebrew, we'll speak about it after. No problem at all. Okay, so the first thing is long term. What was that, Dan? The first thing is long term. What else?
She doesn't speak Israeli.
What else did we say? Should we move on?
Yeah.
Let's move on. Okay. Next topic. Do we have soulmates?
No.
Should we do soulmates or not really?
I think yes.
Yeah.
I disagree.
Ooh, this is a great discussion.
I just think a soulmate doesn't have to be romantic. You can have a soulmate, you can have a friend that connects with you completely, and they just get you. That doesn't mean it's a romantic thing. That's still your soulmate. They're still like.
So you're saying a soulmate is someone that just connects?
No, it's not a connection. It's like two sides of the same coin. So, for example, I think I have a soulmate. My best friend since we were 6, grew up in completely different families, but we understand each other like no one else understands the two of us.
There's an inner intuition which just understands.
Like we don't have to speak to understand each other. We don't have to do anything. We always know when the other one's feeling. Like we're just connected.
Yeah, you have to define soulmate. So like what you were saying
I
is
think
like,
a lot of people get confused with soulmate, and they think it's only one person. But doesn't mean soulmate needs to be one person in the world for you. It means in that time and that moment, that week, that the moment you're in this stage in your life, you have that person. Maybe if you move stage, you have a new soulmate. It's not saying that only one soulmate and that's what's only one person in life. Depends on the level you are and that stage in life that you have that soulmate for that stage. If you move from there, you will find.
He's saying good stuff. Yeah, go on. What are you going to say, Nick? Okay, so let's go through it. Yes, for us.
Want to say anything about having more than one soulmate? Yeah.
Okay, that is a big question. Now, I'm not going to go into Kabbalah right here. I'm not going to go into Kabbalah here, but the Talmud says, the Talmud clearly says there's only one zivug. There's only one soulmate. Okay? But it could change if you're Moroccan. But it could change. Let me tell you a few statements and get the soulmate very clear to you, okay? I'll tell you a few statements from Talmud and Midrash, and you'll get this stuff really clear finally. I think you'll finally get this all very clear. Okay, so there's a famous mystical teaching. Number 1, that 40 days before you're born, what happens?
Your soulmate.
It's dictated already who your soulmate is going to be. And then eventually, when you are born, you are dispersed into 2 different families. You're part of one, dispersed into 2 different families. And over time, you move towards one direction. And eventually you get married. Okay? But the Talmud asks, that's weird. What happens if you get divorced and remarried? And then it says something else. Okay? There's another statement that was taught already from the beginning of the Torah, right? There's another statement that was taught, which is by Reish Lakish in the Talmud of Sota, and he says that mezavgim le'adam kefi ma'asav, you have your soulmate according to your actions that you do in this world, which is very contradictory, right? If it's before I was born, how is it dependent on my actions? This is a very mystical concept. But we have this rule, mezavgim la'adam kefi ma'asav, you will have your spouse according to who you become. The type of person you have is based off who you become. So these two statements.
Spouse and soulmate, two different words.
They are, because if you get married second time,
Right. So
it's someone you're married to, but they won't be called your predetermined soulmate. So there's two things. They will be your soulmate also, but let me explain everything, how it works very clearly. With one more story. Let me tell you a great story. Okay, this guy was called Rabbi Yossi, and it's taught in the Midrash, a great story, that this guy, Rabbi Yossi, he was very close to the daughter. He was close to the Romans in order for the sake of the safety of the Jewish people at his time. He was in the time of the Talmud. He had a very close connection to the Romans. He was a genius of Torah. So everyone would come to him and ask him questions, because even the Romans would come for advice. And he was very close to the Roman emperor, and his daughter would go as well to ask questions to Rabbi Yossi. And she asked a great question. She said, listen, 6 days the creation of the universe was made. What does God do ever since then? Like till now, from then till now, what's he doing? What's he doing with himself? Is he bored? So he asked this question. So Rabbi Yossi said, do you know what God is doing all the time according to mystical teachings? He's mezaveg zivugim. He's always bringing people's souls together. That's all he's doing all the time. Hey, this is very difficult to understand, because obviously there's much more in the world than that. But this is one thing he said. He's always bringing souls together. What does that mean? And if it's already predetermined before you're born, why is God always trying to bring souls together? So here's how it works, okay? And this is very important to understand, based on how we really think in Jewish thinking, in what we do in order to find the person that we marry. This is really powerful stuff, okay? So, let's say here's a guy called Joe, right? And he is born over here, right, in, I don't know, let's say England, okay? And you have England. And you have a girl, let's say, who's born over here, let's say 5 years later, right? And she was born in Israel, her name is Sarah, okay? So she's born 5 years later, just different place of the world, right, based on the and time. And he was meant to, based on the family and the place that he was brought up to, he was the family and the place that he was brought up in, he was meant to move in a certain direction, which is, right, this way, which is to a much better place. Okay, he was meant to grow as a kid. Obviously, he's going to be a wild, loose chase. But then his parents were very good education. His goal, based on the family that he was brought up in, because everyone's brought up in a different, and the environment he was brought up in, his goal was meant to be that he'll go in that direction. Okay? And her goal, Sarah, as soon as she was born, was also to go in that direction, right? And move at a steady pace upwards towards the same position. And eventually, when she reaches 20, let's say, and he's 25, they meet each other and they get married. That was the plan. And this was predetermined before they were born. But what happens if Joe decides at some point, forget all this Jewish stuff or whatever, and he goes in that direction, and then let's say he goes in that direction and goes like that, okay? And he goes there. Right? He changed his path. That can happen. Right? He turned from there, and instead of going up, he changed his path. So what happens to Sarah?
She's going to be lonely.
She's going to be lonely, it seems. Okay? This is a Kabbalistic teaching of how real soulmates work. Okay? So Sarah's now stuck up there by herself. This guy just ran off. Right? So she's over there by herself. Well, there's actually another guy born, and he was born in France. Sorry, Sarah. Right? He was born in France, and his name is Eric. Okay? Now, Eric's path was actually meant to go in that direction, but he decided to go in that direction, and eventually ended up in the same place as where this guy was meant to be. Okay? This is what it means in the Midrash, that God is always bringing people's souls together, because based off the actions that you do, you find your soulmate. And that's what it means, what Rish Lakish, what one of the statements was, that you get a zivug, you get a partner based off your actions, based off where you are in your world. That's where someone else will be waiting for you, and someone else might move to a different direction. Now wait a second before you go there, because there's many things I put into your brain. Just before we get there, so this story of the Roman daughter who went to Rabbi Yossi, and she said, what's God doing after 6 days of creating the world? What's he doing all the time? So Rabbi Yossi said, he's always making marriages. So she says to him, what are you talking about? In 1 minute I can marry 1,000 people. I have 1,000 male slaves and female slaves. Tonight I'll marry them all off. And she did. She went home, she took 1,000, put them all in a room, and she made a huge dating party. Right? You're gonna marry her, you're gonna marry her. She set everyone up. Tonight you're all getting married. And she did. The next morning she finds, guess what happens? One was missing an eye, the other one was missing a leg, the other one was missing a tooth. They all got into a huge fight. Right? You're not for me, you're for me. Right? And they got into a huge fight. And actually Rabbi Yossi answered to this lady, he says, you think for you it's easy, but for God it's going to be very hard. If you think for you it's easy, for God it's still hard. Meaning to say, if you think you could just put people together and hope that it will just happen by itself, that's not how it works. It's all very difficult in the worlds above. Okay, so that's the concept that we have in the mystical teachings. So that being said, here everything can fit together. It's true that at the beginning, before you were born, it was said where you're going to be. But it's also true that which Rish Lakish said, which is mezavgim la'adam kafi ma'asav, that you get your spouse according to your actions. What do you do in this world also can dictate for you who you are going to marry. Yes?
So, just to make sure I understand, so you're saying that who is Sarah's soulmate in that situation?
Sarah's soulmate should have been Joe.
It should have been Joe, but who was it?
What?
Who was it? It was Joe.
It was Joe.
She didn't end up with her soulmate.
No, so now she ended up with Eric, who is her new soulmate, so to speak, that God put together. Yes, because in soul, it's not, in soul terms, right, in the terms of souls, we're all really intertwined with each other. It's in physical terms that we have barriers between each other.
So would it have been, like if things had gone to plan, would it have been better with Joe? Or like what's
now in this situation,
matter? Like,
it doesn't really matter. Just
why do
soulmates exist?
But he's saying that it's not the case because the real soulmate is Joe.
No. You have one soulmate, but it can change.
Like at any one point, you have.
So you don't have one.
Yes.
It negates the whole principle. There's only one soulmate.
I know this is very problematic because.
So you don't have one.
Wait. No, this is very good.
Because it's variable. It's variable on what?
We have a number of questions. Wait a second.
That's exactly what you said. You have one at a time. Meaning,
well, I think it's more variable on the actions. It's what you earn. I mean, what you deserve. It's what you're building your life towards, and if that person is still building, like there's an element of predestination and an element of free will.
So let me explain the answer. I will just give you a quick, very clear answer to define my terms. Very simple. There's a predetermined soulmate, and there's a soulmate which is based off your actions.
The predetermined one doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It can, if you do what you meant to.
But that's not
What happens? Wait, what happens?
No, but where's the free will though?
What?
Where's the free will?
There is free will.
Where's the free will? They decide for you from the beginning.
There's absolute free will. Joe can go down here.
Exactly. So
he can even change his soulmate.
With that exponential, that you have a soulmate, but it also could change.
Right. So you're trying to prove my. Yeah.
Okay, so just to be clear, the person who's your soulmate that is not predetermined
that you might end up with. What does, like, can you explain, like, what type of, like, person or connection they would have? Like, is that...
They, based off who you... No. I'm telling you that you can do actions in this world. This is what it's teaching me. That you could do actions in this world to such an extent, according to Jewish teachings, that can really define who you are in a whole new level. So, even though you were meant to be going in a certain path, but based off the actions that we do in this world, it can change our identity. And by the way, scientifically, we understand that more than ever. There's something called epigenetics, right? Which means that based off your actions, you actually could change your DNA. You could change your genes.
But you're still the same, right?
What?
It shouldn't matter.
You have to understand that your soul isn't your body. Okay? It's a neshama. And the neshama is all a part of what we call the oneness of God. Okay? So it's not like it changes, it is. It's all this oneness that's interconnected. Okay? It's just that every soul has certain hiddenness to it, and every soul has more revelations to it. But we're all part of that oneness of Hashem. So there's another whole aspect to this mystical teaching, which is how each soul really works. What is our soul? What is hidden of it? What's not hidden of it? We need to understand that we're all interconnected at the same time. Look at it like a candle. Okay, many candles in a room. The candles might all be very different, but the light that comes out of it is always the same.
Okay. Well, would you say, is it possible to just not end up with a soulmate? Or is the person that you marry, even if you go through 5 marriages, always considered your soulmate?
So they will be a soulmate, but not your predetermined one.
Okay.
What's the difference? Not that much. There's not that much. It just depends on which direction you went.
Can I?
Yes.
So what if Joe had stayed on the path that he was supposed to stay on, and Eric goes in that path? They both end up in that same place.
There'll be another girl that was hit that direction.
Who was meant for Eric? Because Joe was
What? This Yes.
So are you saying, let's just say I want to be with my predetermined, right? The predetermined one. Are you saying I have to unlock a certain part of my soul to get there? What do I have to do to find that one?
So you have to build yourself in a certain path that is possible for you to build yourself onto.
Wait, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. What?
You have to build yourself a certain path in life, right? When we understand that when you're born, you have a certain imperfection in you.
Right.
Okay? Why? Not because my kids are beautiful,
Right.
but we get, so to speak, very self-centered, selfish, right? And as we grow in life, we're meant to become more selfless and more spiritual.
Right.
So more that the soul is in tune with our body. At the beginning, with more body overtaking our soul. As time goes on, we have the ability to put the body in tune with the soul.
Oh, I agree.
Okay?
Is it possible to return to a path that you divert?
Of course. Of course.
So what if you missed? Is the girl still? What if they're still on the same?
If she got married to someone else, she's married to someone else.
But it's not like Sarah, if Eric goes towards Sarah and Joe goes that way, Sarah knows about Joe at all.
No, not at all.
What if her next marriage doesn't work out?
Not at all. Not at all. Doesn't realize, doesn't know. She's very happy because that was the soulmate that God put them together with. God did that. Yes.
Why does it matter? Are you being serious? Why? When we're talking about this, we're like, why does it matter if you have a soulmate or not? Because it sounds like it ultimately like
these are very.
Like it could change tomorrow.
It's true, because it teaches us a number of very powerful. Why does it matter? This is a reality that teaches us very powerful lessons of how we work in this world. Okay, so it teaches me a number of things. Number one, that I have the ability to either go in a certain path that I should have been going in, or I have the ability to change that path, and even so, something else will fit into that place. So I have it. That shows the strength of my own free will. That shows how powerful my free will is. That I can even go against something that was predetermined for me.
So just live your life.
Either way, you'll find a soulmate. The question is it predetermined?
So I agree with you. I'm with
You're too lost?
No.
Do you feel too lost?
No.
Okay, no.
So Rabbi, I'm with you 90% of the way.
Okay.
I really understand what you're talking about. And like, I think it's like a journey that people have, or I have, like physical, soul, like emotional, trying to put the pieces together. Like, where does it all fall together, right? And I think the 10% that I'm kind of with you. The last part is like, how do you know when you're there? That's all I'm trying to get to. Like, how do you know when you're there?
So what do you mean? When you're, let's say, going out with someone, how do you know if she's my soulmate?
Right. No, not the soulmate. How do you know you've made it there for yourself?
Well, if you've done...
To fix your imperfections.
That's a very good question. So if you can never know how far you've gone for what was dictated for you. Wow, that's crazy. You can never know if you've gone exactly what you're meant to do. But you can know based off the choices you've made over your life. Here, this is a whole free will discussion. Does anyone remember the free will talk? Dan, do you remember that?
Of course.
Okay. Okay, listen, we're going to move on from... Wait. We're going to move on from soulmates. Come to me after. Dan is going to do a few discussions about money. And we'll finish off from there. He's got a few questions about money.
I don't know if the bad is right.
You think it's not right?
I was thinking, first of all, I think serious participation. Yeah. So I was thinking of it as like, so I was signing my teeth.
Okay.
Oh my God, yes.
What's wrong with my teeth?
Spinach. They're joking. Oh.
Nothing you can do.
There's not even spinach out there. I didn't put any spinach.
I was thinking like the beginning of date, like when you're starting to date. And now you're already like going on to marriage. You project?
No, I was just talking about find soulmates.
Fine, when you find somebody.
Okay, fine.
Joe meets Sarah.
Okay, so this section.
Date one.
Enough.
Yeah.
Alright, so this section's about money. So I want to talk to you guys about, hey, Jonathan, I really need you specifically on this one, okay? This question's directed at you.
Oh, okay. Got it.
I didn't speak about how to find...
Because it's a question that not everyone's going to want to answer. So I need like some bold, confident males to step up.
Wow.
Or females.
No, this is specifically for males. Okay, so nice try. There will also be one for females after. All right, let's do females
We're
first.
ready.
Okay. So no, actually it has to be males first. So as any of you males out there, how do you spend money differently, like on a first date or at the beginning of a relationship? Like, what are the things that you'll spend on differently, and why do you think it's necessary to do that?
Can
Again?
you just get a little bit more specifically?
So, like, let's say you're going on a first date, right? And you're making decisions about what to spend money on, what not to spend money on, right? You'll obviously spend that money differently than if you were not on a date, if you're by yourself, whatever, right? To project a certain image of
Like-
not being cheap, right?
Like, do you get the Uber Black? Or the Uber Pool two-seater?
Exactly.
Oh.
Right, exactly. So like
What's that?
You normally take Uber
Is that a thing?
right? You're probably not going to take Uber Pool on like first date, right? Like obviously.
With chat,
Uber Pool,
you
share with other
people and you can do one or
But the question is like things like that, like what are things that you do when you're spending, and like what's kind of the like rubric, like how you think about these decisions if you do have that type of thought process, and why do you feel like you have to do that? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well,
Well, the thing is when... Alright.
I know what he's talking about.
All right, we'll go 1, 2, 3.
First, alright, so like when you're like, you're meeting someone for a date, for a drink, right? Now, typically, you might just be like perfectly happy getting like well liquor, or like, whatever it is. Or a cheap beer, whatever. But, if you're gonna buy this person a drink that you're on a date with, you might be like, let's get the top higher quality thing. Because you wanna show that, you're I don't wanna say that like, spending money shows that you care, but like in a sense you don't wanna look like, oh, like you're not worth the extra few dollars for the better quality thing, like you are.
So it's about projecting worth to the girl, or projecting your own worth?
I would say worth to the girls.
Yeah.
Like show that like you're willing.
So it's a favor to the girl.
Because if you think about it, it's
If
money
you're not
that-
with her.
If it's it's money that you worked for, right? So if you're thinking about it like this, it's like I'm willing to
Spend the money.
invest more of like my hard like this that I earned. Like I'm willing to spend more of it on you because like I care. Like
Okay,
I'm willing.
but
to,
you don't know her.
Yeah. Well, you're right, but like yeah. I mean.
But he asked her out, so she must be nice.
She must be nice, yeah.
I'm not dating her just to date her.
So,
I'm thinking about marriage.
He's trying to find out if she's nice. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next two, but the really important thing to think about here is like, look, there's obviously something awkward about this question, right? So like, don't tiptoe around it. Like, I was actually impressed that you came out and said it. Like, I hate to say it, but whatever. Like, we all do this. As men, and maybe you don't, that's awesome, good for you. But we all do it. So like the first step to actually having this open discussion is to admit that there is something there is some need we feel. And I'm trying to get to like the root of it. Like, why is it that you feel the need to do that? Yeah, you're going.
So I agree with Jonathan. Like I would on a first date, especially like try not to look cheap. Like not wear the cheapest thing on the menu. If I would probably offer to at least offer to pay for the meal, if not just do it. Just because I think women expect that, or some do. If they don't like it when you do that, they tell you usually.
Right.
And then like I think it changes over the course of the relationship, mostly because I think when you're with someone for longer, you're probably spending more money, like significant amounts of money, and to that point you want it to be kind of even.
Right. At a certain point. That's true. So you're where you and we, I will say, because you said that you represent all of us. It's because we feel that the girl wants us to act that way, and we're trying to align with that, which is not a bad answer.
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah.
I hear you. There is, yeah.
First of all, I'm not sure how I feel about the fact that you can call on me and dictate when I speak, but...
There's actually another class 5 minutes down the road.
It's raining and you're the one.
I think that this is all right. I think that it also might go to kind of like a kind of innate like biological kind of predisposition where like traditional or like historically and like even looking at early humans, like all the men have provided for the women, and so this is an early way to show that that's what we can do in the relationship, that we can be the provider. And then if it does kind of, you're not paying for every single meal throughout the course of the entire relationship, I think that's because you're able to eventually show there are other ways to provide, or the woman becomes more comfortable in the relationship that you can be a provider. And this isn't to say that the other things are not wrong. I think they're probably also components, but I think this might be a big factor.
Okay.
Bring home the mammoth meat or whatever.
The what?
The mammoth.
Don't say that again. All right, so women,
what's wrong
do
with that?
you agree with what the men said about why they're doing what they're doing, and kind of because you have a certain expectation from them? So that's question number one. And number two is like, when you're looking at the situation, what types of things are acceptable and what types of things are like being cheap, right? Because there are positive qualities, like, positive thoughts that can be attributed to like financial responsibility. So obviously there is something positive to be said for not just splurging, right? But then on the other side, there's also something positive about being willing to spend that money. So like, how do you look at that issue, and how does it differ, or is it the same from what the men in Era said?
That's a long question.
Yeah, is that too much? So like, sure.
They're ready.
Start talking.
I think it's definitely nice to be treated like, and I think it's also a lot of what we've grown up seeing in movies and TV and whatever. I don't like the term, like saying it's a societal construct, but it's really what we've been fed and how we've seen our parents or our friends or whatever it is. When you see someone responding well to it, you think, oh, that's a good behavior. I'm going to respond well to that also. It's always nice to be treated, but that doesn't mean it has to be super expensive. Like if a guy wants to spend and show that they care and like pay for a girl, you can still be at like Taco Bell. Like, who cares? You know what I mean?
Right, but if they're gonna nickel and dime you over every cent, then it's kind of being cheap.
Well, that's
on the alternative
their
side.
attitude.
Right, that's an attitude
That's their
thing.
behavior. It's not the action of
Right, like I
paying
don't
for it.
mind splitting things or anything like that, but if they're gonna be like, oh, you owe me $2
Yeah,
for this
Oh,
one,
but that's an
like appetizer, that's
after,
like,
that's
yeah.
an after behavior. It's,
Yeah.
it's a post-date.
Yeah, me
I want to combine what Jana's saying and also what Jonathan is saying, because I do
Yeah.
think it is like the way we've grown up, that's what we want, but at the same time, we want it because it shows that the man is like investing his hard-earned money, you know, in you, and that's showing he's valuing your time and valuing you as like being there. Although, yeah, I mean, like society nowadays is saying that's kind of misogynistic or whatever, however you want to interpret it, because men shouldn't be the ones having to pay for everything, and women are trying to have this whole thing of, you know, feminist movement, all that. But at the same time, like, it's hard. It's honestly a double-edged sword, because you're right. Like, we do want to have like women empowerment, but we also want the guy to invest in that. Like,
But I think there's something also to be said about like giving the option and then being like, oh, it'd be like, oh, as a girl, I'd be like, oh, I'd be happy to split this meal with you. Like, we'll go eat. If they insist, then I'll be like, oh, okay, thank you so much. Like, I'm not gonna get upset over that.
Also, on the other side, maybe not on a first date, guys like to be bought things also.
Yeah.
They feel just as special when a girl buys them something.
Like
maybe
that?
not.
Yeah.
Maybe not on a first date.
But that sounds
Yeah, they do.
No, I know girls.
You're saying it sounds awesome if a girl would buy me something.
They would take it down though. You wouldn't take it.
For like boys' boyfriend, like for their
You would or you
boyfriends,
wouldn't?
boyfriends, like
You would not.
birthdays, they will spend like $300,
exactly.
$500. They will spend so much money on this guy's on their boyfriend's birthday. Where that's crazy to me.
True. Aries.
I just want to push back a little bit on what Ori was saying by asking a question. So you're saying that it shows like investment. It's nice to see that, right? But
There's a storm right now, by the way.
I don't.
Yeah, it's this conversation.
We didn't hear.
Let's say you go out with someone who has a modest income, and someone who goes out. Then you go out with someone who is, you know, multi-millionaire. The multi-millionaire is going to be able to provide a lot more for you on the first date, but it's a lot less of an investment. It's a lot less of a sign. Yeah, but what I'm saying is like, it seems like there are certain kind of expectations of what is going to be provided, a level of care, whereas like the multi-millionaire, you know, taking you to a nice restaurant may mean nothing, whereas the person with a modest income, you know, is going to be not taking you to not as nice of a restaurant, but it's a bigger investment for that person.
And what what means more?
Exactly.
Ask them what means more.
Right,
If a multi-millionaire brings you to a nice restaurant, or if someone who doesn't.
more.
And also, does that come into the equation, right? Because you don't really know how much that guy makes, and there's probably a part of the guy spending on the first date that's making you think he's in a higher social class, or at least like projecting that, right? So like, is it really about the quality of what? Well, that's another question. Is it about the quality of what you're getting on that date, what the guy's buying you, or is it really about the gesture? Because that's what you said, Ori, and I really like that answer, and I hope that is how everyone feels. I doubt it. Anyway.
So like a few things actually. She mentioned about like that guys like it if a girl buys them a gift, you know, like for their birthday or whatever. I don't think it's necessary that a girl buys like a $300 gift for his birthday. Not at all. I've been on dates with girls. First date, of course, I don't let her pay no matter what. Second date, she bought me a coffee. It was $3. I really appreciate it.
All right.
It's not about just it's the gesture. You know, it's the gesture.
For sure.
You know, because you know, and another thing is on your first date, you set the agenda. So if you decide, as a man, you decide, all right, we're going here, then we're going there, then we're going there. So if you can't afford to live up to that lifestyle that you show her on the first date, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. Because you're showing her on the first date, all right, I'm a millionaire, we're going to the nicest restaurant, and we're doing this.
There's a margin of error, right? Like,
no, I mean,
like just don't like show up in a rented Lamborghini.
You don't have to take a girl to go crazy. You know, the best 5-star restaurant on your first date to impress her. You know, you just gotta be yourself. You gotta go out, whatever, buy your dinner, whatever, simple stuff, I think. And
so, what do you think the minimum is where you could take a girl and it would be okay? Not
the
Taco
minimum,
Bell, obviously.
The minimum, you can take her to Starbucks. Take her to Starbucks.
Could you go on
yeah,
the first
you can
date
take her
where
to
you're not?
Starbucks, and if she thinks you're cheap,
Could you go?
That's your, you know.
Could you go to the first date?
She knows a lot about me.
Yeah. You could. our coffee is $3, bro. You're not gonna spend
What I'm saying is,
$3 on
could you go on a first? You could go on a first date where you're not even spending money at all.
Shorter time between the flash and the
Let's
sound.
just turn it down.
Go on a hike.
Relax, everyone calm.
The silence after.
I think it's the
So do the girls agree with the coffee thing? That would be acceptable.
How many people go on a first date?
Coco will work on
No, because the guys are way too afraid of suggesting. So it's better.
Yeah, what?
Yeah. Well, when I say drinks, not I try not to.
Should we call it? No, that's
Shorter time.
Shorter time for
Okay.
Does anyone who hasn't spoken have anything to add?
Like even a free day at a museum.
One sec. You're getting a ballot.
I did that.
That's crazy.
The car went up.
What's going on? Are we okay? Does anyone have any last words?
If I die with rabbis.
Someone has to finish strong, you know?
I'm good. Best place to go.
Guys, give us 1 second for the insight.
A little bit more based on personal experience, but maybe like.
It's too silent now.
But obviously, like first date seems like it doesn't have to be something where like money is spent. I think it's really trying to get to know the person and talk to them. So, what's the point in like taking someone like for an extravagant like meal when really like you're there just to meet the person and get to know them on a like a deep level. And then the other thing is setting the bar or whatever you want to call it as far as like having a mutual agreement. I only say this because I went on a date, first date, we just walked through, the Grove, and I was actually thirsty. I was like, I'm gonna get a drink. I went and got a drink, he offered to pay. I feel like I'm a little bit more of an independent person. I was like, oh, I'll take care of it. He's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, sure. Since then, it was like as if everything went out the door, and then the next time we went on a date, it was actually suggesting like, let's go to a friend's birthday. I think he'd enjoy it. Let's get away. He didn't cover the Uber. He didn't pay for the cover for anything.
So you split the Uber?
I paid for everything. Everything.
To be honest, you paid for them just way less That's
he
crazy.
thought at that moment it was like, I'm an independent person. I don't care what you say or do. But it was like, I thought I was gonna be kind of like a coffee is one thing, but like meet at least halfway if it's someone who's
Is that for him? Okay.
independent.
Yeah. Thank you. Next.
Okay, so when I go out with a girl, I'm going out for myself. That's the truth. I'm going out to a place that I want to go to, but I'm gonna ask her. I'm like,
Listen
hey,
up, ladies.
hey, no, really, like,
Really?
dude, if you're busy at work all day, you barely get to go out. Weekends are your only time off, really. So you want to go somewhere that you want to go to. You don't have that much time. So you want to go somewhere nice. You're not really worried about like, is she really gonna like it? Is this gonna be like the price that she wants? I want to make sure that I pull up like really now. Like, you're going out, it's your free time, and if she respects you for that and thinks that like, look, you're investing time into her, then great. If not, then that's what shows you that it's not gonna work.
Well,
right?
also, just to piggyback on that, I mean, I think that you should go to a place that you want to go also to find out if, it's a good way to see if you're compatible, if you like the same kind of thing, like.
Exactly. You can't play. You can only fake it for like what, 1 date, 2 dates.
Like, are you gonna go to a place that you don't like because you think that she might like it? I would say you shouldn't, because then you're kind of being fake. Like, go to a restaurant you like and be like, do you like this restaurant? I love this restaurant.
Yeah, I love this.
You don't? We're done.
Like, whoa! I there you go. This is it. That was
You don't like tacos? Sorry.
That was a sign.
What do you mean you don't like this taco truck?
Taco truck.
You got any thoughts?
No thoughts. I just want to say that one thing we can all come into an agreement on, and that's really important, is that we underestimate how a small amount is also so valuable. And that's something that everyone will agree on. You don't have to go and buy and show off, and in fact, sometimes that's too much. It gives an impression of, you're trying to do something else or sell something besides for yourself. And also, we think too much about what does the other person think and what do they not think. If I'm doing the right thing, why do I need to think too much? Why do I need to think too much? I'm buying a coffee, I'm buying a drink, I'm going for a drink. It's because of all these thoughts that people avoid dating in the first place. And it's better to not go through all these crazy thoughts and do something small than to do something big. And it works. I know it because even after marriage, you date. It really is. Even when you're married, it still happens. So like, I know that I used to think that you need these big things to really make something attractive to someone, and you don't. You just need you. You know, just be cute, be awesome, and recognize how cool you are and amazing you are. And you can sell yourself with a coffee at Starbucks. Yes, you can. And I believe that no one in this room would say, I do not want this cute guy because he took me out in Starbucks. If he's really sweet and nice, you would take him no matter where. You know, obviously it shouldn't be in a dirty club in downtown. But you know, like if it's a decent place where there's decent people around and it's respectable, who cares about the money? It's about the person. And if you've got what to sell, you've got what to sell. Something small is also valuable. This is so true in many areas of life, not just in dating, but in marriage as well. So that's definitely my thought. I thank you all. Thank you.
Give it up for Dan.
Yeah, Dan.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. If you like what you hear and are between the ages of 21 and 30, you are a beginner to Judaism living in Los Angeles, then this group discussion is for you. Come and join us at Aishlit every week on Taco Tequila Torah Tuesdays or Wednesday night for Wednesday Wine and Wisdom once a month. This is besides for our exciting social events and Shabbats. Stay tuned for more upcoming podcasts. Check us out on Facebook, Aishlit Los Angeles, or go to our website at aishlit.com.